Now, the war, yes, it is over, but this fight to bring Americans and allies home is far from over. Should the U.S. consider a relationship with the Taliban to do that? We bring in former Assistant Secretary of State Bob Hormats and Secretary Security and exfiltration expert Kelley DeConcilis to discuss. Bob, let me begin with you. You know, you can describe the Biden administration and the Taliban having a marriage of necessity, if you will. Can we continue that? Should we continue that as we work to get our people and our friends out? Can we trust them?
Well, I think that we have to deal with what is on the ground, and the Taliban is now running the show for the most part in the country. And if we need to work with them to get Americans or allies or friends of the United States out, we are probably going to have to do that. In addition, there is another problem there that we'll probably talk about, and that is ISIS-K. And the Taliban and the ISIS-K are arch enemies, and we may have to, in fact, work with the Taliban to suppress them. They in fact, were part of the agreement that President Trump made earlier, that we would work with the Taliban, or the Taliban would find ways of suppressing ISIS-K. So that's another area where we might find ourselves having to work with the Taliban. Central Asia is a very complicated place. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you have to do things you otherwise probably would not like to do in the interests of meeting the needs of the United States and its allies and preserving our security.
Right. So that goes along the lines of the enemy is our friend. But Kelley, we just heard from Edward Lawrence, and we saw pictures of the Taliban using our military equipment, billions and billions of dollars worth. John Kirby says, well, they can't really do anything with it. Well, I mean, can they sell it to countries that don't like us, like China or Iran, for instance, and then get cash? I mean, you are working with people on the ground in safe houses. You have ran out of safe houses to put these people in, our allies in. Would they leave a safe house when the Taliban has our equipment and could harm them?
So, Lauren, I'd like to just take a moment. I think truly the suicide bomb last Thursday, from an exfiltration standpoint and many other standpoints, it changed everything. From the situation at the gates to exfiltration plans we had, from the underground network on moving people in vehicles with cover stories, it's all gone now. So I have American citizens, Afghans that served with our United States military, and SIV, special immigrant visa holders, that qualify for asylum in the U.S. and refugees. I can't get them out. And my job for years has been to get these people and assets out of bad places quickly and quietly. Lauren, I can tell you, I've never seen anything like this in my career. You don't leave people behind. We can't navigate roads or even conduct airlifts without the support and landing permits of the United States government. So if you look at a map, the borders are covered with the Taliban. The Taliban has truly been running the show for quite some time. We're really at a standstill.
So, Bob, how do we get them out?
Well, I am not the expert in exfiltration. It's a very complicated process, but it is something that we have to do. We cannot leave them behind. I totally agree. And it may well be that you have to have some arrangements with the Taliban, which were included actually in the agreement that was made by the last administration, right, that the Taliban would help us to deal with certain issues that we're going to face, particularly dealing with ISIS-K.
Then let me ask you this, Bob, because you do have expertise in this area. We are approaching the 20th anniversary of 9/11. Considering the position of the United States right now and the situation on the ground in Afghanistan, where we do not have troops and we do not have cameras, do you think the homeland is safe?
Do I think the homeland is safe? I think we're going to have to leave that to the military. But we're going to have to be very vigilant about the fact that a lot of foreign fighters have moved into Afghanistan in the last several months already. We don't know whether the Taliban will be able to control ISIS-K if it wants to, which it said it does. We don't. Obviously, we're going to have to wait and see what they're prepared to do. But it's an odd situation. The irony is that we probably can find ways of working with other countries in the region who are concerned about foreign fighters using the base of Afghanistan, as in the past, to go into or cause very serious damage in areas not just in the periphery of Afghanistan, but the Chinese and the Russians are concerned about. The Chinese foreign minister made a statement about avoiding, or China working to avoid, any infringement on the territory of countries in the region, and certainly of China, particularly Western China. The Russians have had conversations with the Taliban to make sure the Taliban kept these jihadists under control. So if we're gonna make America safe, we've got to do a lot ourselves to protect ourselves, and maybe we're going to have to find ways of working with friends and allies and other countries who fear the same kind of jihadist terrorist acts that we're concerned with.
As we wait for President Biden to make his first televised remarks since the end of the war in Afghanistan, Kelley, what tone do you expect President Biden to take? What tone should he take? He has received criticism for being callous and indifferent at times to the situation.
So I think the U.S. government made promises. We told our people to wait by the phone. That phone never rang. Or even worse, that phone rang, or the text came through telling those families in high-value targets that served beside us to come out of hiding, risk their lives, and go to the gates. The gates, Lauren, never opened for them. They called and no one picked up. We left them. We left them with broken promises and with a view of freedom through barbed wire fences. The only hope is volunteers working to get these people out, staying up through the night, working through routes, and coordinating aircraft. My hope is that for this press conference today, that President Biden understands right now there are only bad options. We are trying to pick the best one to get these people out of this situation.
Yeah. And I hope we do pick the best option. Kelley, Bob, thank you for the time.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.